exploring lakes, rivers, and reservoirs across the country with an unyielding goal to enlighten viewers from a fisheye perspective. Come along and we'll investigate the habitat. Much more than a fishing show, this is an eye-opening aquatic experience. Welcome to Kim Stricker's Hook and Look. It's no secret to anglers that during the breaking hour of the day, bass are often on the feed and will aggressively pursue a moving bait, should the opportunity present itself. This is the scenario Kim takes pleasure in today with a KVD 2.5 crankbait. But how does he adjust when that undemanding bite comes to a halt? He shifts into tournament mode, intensifying his focus on the task at hand, and with confidence, perseveres while employing the methodical use of a jig and trailer, and ultimately validates a proverbial lesson.
Shows you persistence pays off. Little point sticks out here that's got weeds all over it. And bluegill. Trigger them with that crankbait a little bit. There we go. There we go. Ooh, yeah. Hit my little old crankbait. Look at there. Yes, sir. Right on top of that weed bed. Right on top of the weed bed. Like that. Get over here. Shake that. Oh. Good thing you had plenty of hooks in you. Ooh, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. You see how easy that hook came out of the net? That's what's awesome about that net. Well, that's a good start of the morning on a little old 2.5 crankbait. As I mentioned, there's schools of bluegills suspended this time of year. And this morning they're up on top of stuff, but this is that natural bluegill color. Natural Bream, I think it's called. And boy, it looks good. And it even looks better in the water. The KVD 2.5 crankbait is perfect for shallow water power fishing. I chose this model because I knew it would run at a depth directly over the weed patches, and that its hunting action would trigger lethargic fish. 2.5, well, let's start. All right, fish, I'll let you go. All right, let's do that again. Put that down. Right on top of the weeds. Oh, I see a bass right there. Next to that Illinois pondweed. I'll keep that in mind. Let's catch another one on that crankbait while it's early. When you fish a lake for the first time, it's kind of best to cover water like this with a crankbait. Not only to get a feel for a bite, but to scope things out, look where the thicker weed beds are. A little bluegill darting on a trigger strike. There he is. There he is. Ooh, yeah. Another decent fish. They're up. They're biting that crankbait. They are biting that crankbait. Look at that. Oh, I just got one little hook into him. Come to the rescue, net. Come to the rescue. Yes. Yes. Good average size fish. Get a good grip on them. I got one hook in them. There. Nice fish. But so far they seem to be up on the weeds where the bluegills are. But I wouldn't be surprised as the day goes on they do come off. Me and the Jets. Benny and the Jets. I might name the show that. Kimmy and the Jets.
Stay tuned. The bass action takes flight as well. Right after this. Hook and Look is brought to you by Strike King Lure Company, #1 in fishing lures. Seagar, trust Seagar when everything is on the line. Power Pole, swift, silent, secure. The original Owaki tool, your soft bait's best mate. And by Indian River, Michigan Tourist Bureau. Pure water, pure trails, pure north.
My line choice for this crankbait pattern is the new Seagar Ripon Premium monofilament, which is clear in color, and although it doesn't have quite the transparency characteristics of fluorocarbon, it does contain beneficial properties that I prefer when fine-tuning this presentation. Monofilament isn't as dense and doesn't sink like fluorocarbon. Therefore, Ripon Mono doesn't draw my crankbait any deeper, allowing it to run over the top of these particular weed beds. You can hear that. We're right next to an airport. So we're gonna have a little competition with the airplanes today. Once again, welcome to Hook and Look. My early morning crankbait bite began to decline once the sun started peeking over the trees. Dead calm conditions weren't helping the situation either, so I thought I'd try more of a finesse approach. Let's see if I'll hit a little Dream Shot worm. And not a little one, 5 inches, the bigger one. That early morning business route is taking off. Something pecked me. Yeah, it's something to peck me, all right. Get off those weeds, get off them. The old Dream Shot worm. That seem to be kind of clones, don't they, right now? Seem to do a lot of that. But definitely hanging around those weeds. There's a mixture of cabbage and milfoil. Yeah. Nice little largemouth. Just, I pitched the drop shot on the inside of that weed bed. And that's basically where I'm catching them on the crankbait too, but I just thought I'd give it a little more of a finesse presentation. But yeah, just nice, solid fish. Nice average. All right. Thank you.
In spite of catching a decent largemouth, Kim's continued efforts with the Dream Shot worm produce only smaller fish. So he decides to tie on a 1-ounce Strike King Hack Attack jig, which was designed for fishing within heavy cover.
You can see that thick milfoil, and you got holes in between it, and I see a small bass right there swimming over it. The dog days of summer and the heat of this sun, they're gonna get inside that cover. They want that overhead canopy. And this lake doesn't have a whole lot of it. And when I see a ball like this, I'm thinking there's gotta be fish inside it. There he is. Yes, sir. Man, he funked it too. We may be on the deal here. Come up here. We may be on the deal. It's not a giant, but it's telling us something. Phew. You know, I first thing in the morning, I'm throwing that crankbait over the top of the weeds, catch a couple fish, and I, probably still could catch fish too. Fishing with a drop shot on the outside, I'm getting a couple of bites, but mostly smaller ones. But I'm seeing that thick milfoil, balls of it, and the better fish have got to be hanging underneath it. What I'm using is a Hackney heavy cover flipping jig. That's a 1-ounce jig. and punching that thing inside where they're basically hanging. Hopefully that pays off. On this type of lake, I don't think there's many people that'll fish that way. They're probably mostly fishing the outside and around. I'm looking at bluegills hanging all over the top here.
Well, it appears Kim is onto something. But to more thoroughly comprehend how the bass and their food are relating to the milfoil, he'll take a much closer look. Coming up, there's more hooking and some informative looking. Right after these messages. Welcome back. Let's join Kim as he descends to inspect the weed beds and validate today's pattern.
Without question, today's Indian summer pattern begins with a bass's food, and not only where, but also how they're positioned in the water column. Taking advantage of the warm, calm conditions, the schools of bluegills were suspended over the grass near the water's surface, where the sunlight penetration promotes plankton production. Basically chains of predator-prey relationships, the young bluegill will assemble and feed on the plankton, and the bass then relate to the vegetation in the same fashion and feed on the bluegill. Both largemouth bass and bluegill are subspecies of the sunfish family. They evolve together and reside together. As bass fishermen, it's wise to identify the bluegill position in the water column and present your lures accordingly.
I'm following a bass. He's right in there with the cabbage. Right where he should have been. Just gonna kind of go slow and hopefully he comes back. Here's a decent size. Oh, there's another one. This was a better one. This is a good spot. There's big fish here. Nice sized bluegills here too. Just suspended up in the cabbage. I'm following a big one. Right inside the milfoil. You can see how dark it is in this milfoil. They live in this spot, I guarantee you. I'm not seeing them come out of the inside. I'm seeing them around the edge of it. But I am getting some good stuff.
For the most part, these bass are suspended over and around the patches of grass, much in the same manner as the bluegills. I did, however, see a few good ones a little shallower, parked up on the flat, but when startled, drew back and suspended in the taller vegetation. And when I ventured off the deeper edge of the grass bed, I encountered a thermocline that appeared to be void of fish.
Yeah, I'm feeling a temperature change right about that 12, 13 foot mark. And those fish seem to be in that 8 to 10. I haven't seen any fish past 10 foot. I have a better understanding, though, with the way the fish are related to this.
It is gonna be a hot one. And if it stays as calm as it is, it's gonna be a tough one too. See, I'm coming up the edge of this point. You can see the milfoil, and then it stops, and then you have a gradual flat. It's been that inside edge has been the most productive than the deep. Come to a patch of grass like this and the bluegills are all over it. You come to the right one and there's a bass on it too. Well, this is my most confident way, especially to catch a big fish, so I'm just gonna, oh, there's a fish right there, a good one too. Right where you're supposed to be, and I spooked him away, I think. Oh man, no, he's down there still. When I can see them, they can see me a lot better. There it is. That's a little better. That one's a little better. Come come on over to the net. I was gonna say, he didn't even know he's caught yet. He's going, what just happened? That's a good one out of the center of that stuff. Hooked him good in two ways. But yeah, look at that. A little chunkier than I've been catching. Absolutely. This is the dog days of fall, not summer. It's fall, and it is going to be in the low 90s in Michigan. But that is a good fish. They're lethargic, there's no doubt about it, but if I can surprise them, if they're in the edge of that milfoil and I don't spook them with the jig, they'll bite it. Fantastic, nice fish.
Want more underwater content? Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be right back. This portion of Hook and Look is brought to you by Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. Simms Fishing Products, the choice of professional guides and anglers worldwide. Cush It, world's most comfortable rod butt. And by Sportfish Michigan, your source for the top charter captains and guides.
Yeah, one of the things that I learned underwater was how they'll be near the edge tucked in. So when I'd approach, you'd all of a sudden see them pull away, and good ones. You know, so, I mean, they can be inside it thick, on top of it, around it, but they're definitely relating to these milfoil patches. And if they treated all the milfoil in this lake, you wouldn't have the opportunity and the fish wouldn't have the security of a weed bed to hide in, along with the bait and especially the fry and the fingerlings. They need the weeds to hide out and grow. There we go. Not the greatest, but it's another fish. I'll take them on a tough day like today. Eating that old Hack Attack jig.
The 1-ounce Strike King Hack Attack jig was designed to penetrate and fish extremely heavy cover. Still, it's the addition of a rage tail trailer that imparts the fish-attracting action. Each rage tail trailer has a unique and exclusive tail design and is engineered like no other soft plastic trailer. Kim's choice today has been a rage chunk, which provides a considerable amount of action, yet maintains a more condensed profile than that of larger trailer options.
I love fishing this way. Persistence, tournament mode, make it happen. Use your head, use your knowledge, use your experience, and you'll make it happen. And there's a lot of truth to that. Ooh, I can see bass on this one. But what I'm seeing, they're around the edge of it. Obviously I can't see the ones that are penetrated up into it, but I'm gonna fish it a little more thorough. Pick it apart, maybe get a good one. There's a nice one, another nice one. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Oh, that's what we're looking for right there. That is the one we're looking for. Yes, yeah. Oh man, on that jig, I guess you got to get in that stuff when it gets like this. Nice fish. I mean, no doubt it has been tough fishing, right? These were tough conditions, but it proves that you can catch them. It shows you persistence pays off. There was no question I was persistent pitching that jig, especially after conducting my underwater surveillance. I gained a better comprehension of the numbers and average size of the bass. But more importantly, I learned what depth they appeared to prefer and targeted my efforts then on accordingly. Let me step forward for just a moment to show you how quickly bass will change. A few days later, we returned to this same lake to make another dive on the same spot to capture some additional footage. Once in the water, we quickly discovered that the bass had collectively positioned themselves differently. Although still relating to the grass patches, they did so in a different fashion. Instead of suspending over the top and around the sides with the bluegill, the bass had assembled in schools off the deeper edge of the vegetation at a depth of 12 to 13 feet.
Big bass right in front of me. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bass in front of me. Is this awesome? So that was the biggest school. They're still here. Those were off the outer edge.
There were more like 15 to 20 bass there. Different day, different conditions, different positioning. That's what keeps bass fishing so challenging and why bass are America's most popular game fish. Be sure to tune in again next week. We'll tackle another challenge and enlighten you on the pattern, this time with big northern Michigan smallmouths. Strike King's Darren Jacobson accompanies me to help cover water for smallies with a burner spinnerbait, and he tosses in a nice largemouth for good measure. That's all on our next episode of Hook and Look.
Hook and Look is a Kim Stricker production.